Always a pleasure.
So a few months ago, Dave said to me, will you do a talk at the men's breakfast? And I said, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. He said, I'd like you to talk about your time at Chewton Glen. Well, I was only there 18 months, 2 years. And I thought, well, I could probably drag that out for 6 hours. But I thought, what might be better if I started off with my background. And when I look at my background and where I am now, I think my background and my career as such has all been about taking risks. So I suppose what I'm really trying to say is I've never really had a career. But what I have done all the way through is got out of the boat. If you're familiar with your scriptures, Matthew 14, 22 to 34, I think it is. Jesus is in the boat, or Jesus gets out of the boat, and he says to Peter, come and walk on the water. And Peter's not that sure about it. And once his faith starts to decline, he starts to sink, and eventually they get back in the boat again. But nowadays, if you Googled get out of the boat, a thing by John Ortberg will come up, this author, and it talks about if you want to walk on the water, you've got to get out of the boat. So this is about taking risks and taking chances and living outside your comfort zone. And I'm sure you're familiar with the three zones. There's the comfort zone in the middle. Outside that's the stretch zone, and outside that is the panic zone. And lots of people live their lives in the comfort zone. You know, they don't want to do this and that. I could do that, but what if this happens? So they stay all their lives in the comfort zone. Outside that is the stretch zone. And if you do these management courses, they tell you that's where the opportunities are. All the opportunities are in the stretch zone. What you don't really want to do is live your life in the panic zone, because then you don't know where you are. I think we've all been there. In fact, all three zones. So this is my life in those. So my career, well, I might not have mentioned it before. I used to be in the Navy. Forgive me if I haven't mentioned it. 23 years in the Navy. So that was my career. That's the only closest to career I've come. This is me as a 16-year-old. I've been in the Navy 4 weeks. That's me on the right, by the way. I wanted to be a Royal Marine. I was 5'6" and 8 stone wringing wet. And when I went to the careers office, the Royal Marine Commando in there, he told me to get out. So I went back and he said, do these tests. And I did these tests, and he said, all these tests show that you can be an engineer. I didn't even do metal work at school. I had no idea whatsoever. It turned out, sort of 10 years into my naval career, I was okay at engineering, so I stuck with that and made a decent career of it. And after that, I went into health and safety. So I worked in Aldershot, a place called Sabre Safety, and I really enjoyed it there. So I was a training manager there. I took a risk going for the job. They asked me to do a presentation on a subject of my own choice. And I did a presentation on one of the products that they make that the Navy uses. And the panel that I did a presentation to, they were whispering behind their hands, they're cheeky. But I got the job. So I took a risk and got the job. After I'd been there 6 years, they asked me to relocate to the States and set up a joint venture, which I did. I went out to Kentucky, another chance, another risk. And in Kentucky, I became a Christian, and I was instantly convicted that I should come home, back to Yateley, which I did. So I retired and came home. I had no job. I had a mortgage to pay, I had bills to pay, no job. I thought, well, what am I going to do now? As a new Christian, I thought, well, I'll say a prayer. That's what Christians do. And I said a prayer, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I've never worked in IT. I'd like to work in London. I've never done that before. And I was earning quite well in the States. I wouldn't mind earning the same amount as that. Within a month, I was working in IT in London and earning more than I was earning in the States. There's got to be a God in there somewhere. And I had no idea what I was doing, by the way, when I got to this job in London. Software testing. I knew nothing about I knew nothing about software testing, but I was a training manager, and my job was a career development for the consultants. Basically, people were leaving, and I had to put a career development plan in place to stop them leaving. So my job was based around that. Interesting with software testing. So some of the jobs that you'll see me doing here, I left of my own free will. Some of them I didn't. So software testing, I got in there just at the end of the dot-com boom. And I'd not been there that long. My boss, I was part of the HR function. My boss, director of HR, she said, we've got to make 23 redundancies, Mike. I said, oh, okay, yeah. Well, we're an Israeli-owned company. She said, I've got to go to Israel. Would you mind doing it? So one by one, I had to call in 23 people and make them redundant. She came back from Israel, said, can we have a quick chat? And then I joined the back of the queue. So I was made redundant after that. So again, strange how things work. I said, is that it? I'm going to clear my desk, so that's it. Went to clear my desk. My phone rang. Picked up the phone. I said, who's that? He said, it's Kevin Palmer, guy I used to work with. I said, he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm clearing my desk. He said, I didn't even try to ring you. He said, I've just rung the wrong number. He said, why are you clearing your desk? I said, been made redundant. He said, right, get down to Moorgate this afternoon, you start tomorrow. So back into software testing. So I spent 4 years in software testing. And I still don't know much about it, but to be fair. While I was doing software testing, the guy there said, my wife works for an occupational health company in Reading. They want an operations manager, someone who could change the business, get it ready for handing over to Simply Health, which is now part of Atos. I said, not interested, not interested, not interested. Eventually, he wore me down. And the guy who was a boss of this company, he said, come for a cup of coffee anyway. I went for a cup of coffee, got the job. Didn't want the job. And I stayed there. They made me director of operations. And again, just, yeah. What happened there, I didn't leave that job of my own free will. I managed a team of 13 doctors, and my job was to make sure that they were putting or getting all the billing right, so the company was profitable. Well, they weren't very good at that. They were fantastic doctors and consultants. They weren't very good at charging for their services. And so when I suggested to them that they might want to buck their ideas up a bit, there was a bit of a coup. And I got called in the office and they said, the doctors want you to be replaced by a doctor. I said, so where does that leave me? He said, well, I've got to make you redundant. I said, well, you can't do that because you're putting somebody else in my place. And he said, okay. He said, what do I have to pay you to leave? And so we came to an agreement. and I left. When I was working for this occupational health company, we had a fantastic end of year thing where we'd done really, really well. Is the Grange Hotel still in Bracknell? Has that gone now? Or? But anyway, we had a do there, and they gave me a suite in this hotel, and I had my team in there, champagne reception before this big Christmas do or end of year do. And strange how things work. 4 weeks later, having had this compromise agreement, these are I slipped aside there. I was counting up the other day the places I've been in the world. It came to 58. Then I realised I've forgotten to. So 60 countries. My naval career took me to. You think I'd have learned a bit going around, but no, maybe not. So anyway, so I had this suite in this hotel and champagne reception and everything else, and then had this compromise agreement, left the company, and I went to work for a drain cleaning company as operations manager. 4 weeks after I'd been in this suite sipping champagne, I was down in the sewers underneath this hotel, cleaning out drains. And it's not how had the mighty have fallen. It's just, you take stock of the situation. You think, I used to be upstairs in there drinking champagne and I'm hucking out these drains. But I enjoyed it. It's one of those things. And it was a job I just did for a year. And then I thought I could do better than this. So I set up my own property maintenance company. I think I did a job for you, Dave. I think I did a bathroom for you, John. Yeah, it's still okay.
About that bathroom.
Yeah. My highlight of this property and maintenance career, I never managed to get on Rogue Traders. So, and then I worked for a Christian youth charity for a year called Jack up in Woking. You may know that. And then, let's go. Does anyone know what this is? Trouble with the technology. Here we go. That software testing thing I was talking about.
We're still testing. I think so.
Yeah, the sound's not working. Let me know if you know what this is. Okay, it's a black hole. I fell into a black hole. I became depressed, and depending on who you talk to, so I think it happened overnight. I woke up one morning, I just could not function. Sue said she saw it coming, Sue's my wife, Craig's mum. She says she saw it coming a mile off. And for over a year, I couldn't function. I turned my back on the church. I turned my back on my friends, something I'm not proud of. But in the end, I took the drugs. I had counselling. I saw a shrink and eventually started to come out of it. Now, I suppose, long story short, I'm not fixed, and I don't think I ever will be. I talked to Dave earlier. I'm not the same person now that I was then. I think back then I was overconfident and first to arrive at a party, last to leave. Now I don't like going to parties and I don't volunteer for things willy-nilly. So the depression and men's health, it does have a lasting effect. I don't want to dwell too much on that because I think that's an hour's talk all by itself. But I came out of it. And what happened next? I worked for British car auctions and picking up and dropping off cars all over the country. Got to drive some really, really nice cars. I'd been there a couple of weeks and somebody said, you could be a team leader. So they gave me a minibus I had to drop guys off. So there's your 6 cars, boys. I'll meet you in Manchester. Drove to Manchester. There's your 6 cars, boys. I'll meet you in Luton. So I really enjoyed it for a year. But then that mental health thing kicked in, and it was still going on, really. And I said to Sue, I really need to be back where the sea is again. So back to my naval thing, I want to be by the sea. So we moved to Barton-on-Sea, down the seaside. And that was retirement number 1. And there, that was me sort of coming out of my depression. I look a bit like Jerry, don't I? Dad! Yeah. So that's where I still live there now. So we've been there 9 years now. I looked a bit older than I do now, but there we go. That was retirement number 1. Then, having been retired, I got bored. I said to Sue, I need to get a job. I can't just do this. And she said, what are you going to do? I said, well, I don't want to manage people. I don't want to work with IT. I said, I want a job where I haven't got to think. So I drove a Tesco delivery van for 3 years. You know those guys that bang on your door and say, well, you get one every week, don't you? So I was that guy, going all around the New Forest and looking like that, scaring people to death. So who's this? My hair was down here. And so I thought I looked like Richard Branson, but my customers told me I looked like Bill Oddie. So that was me for 3 years. And then I got to 65 and I thought, that's it, I retired. And then right out of the blue, after I retired, I got a call, and it was a company in Lymington, marine engineering company. And they said, we've seen your CV online. I don't know, it must have been on, what's that, LinkedIn, is it? And they said, we need a marine engineer. I said, not interested. They said, come for a cup of coffee. I went for a cup of coffee, started work the next week, making steering systems for super yachts. And that went on fairly well. Then COVID happened. And during COVID, I got a strange email. So I was made, what would they call that thing in COVID where you were laid off but paid? Furlough. I was furloughed. And during the furlough, I got a nice email that said, and mentioned my age, and I wouldn't be required back at work. Apparently you're not allowed to do that. Craig is married to a very, very talented employment lawyer. And I sought her advice, and she said, write this letter, say this, say this. Eventually we came to an agreement. And so I left and retired again. Because it was COVID and I knew the manager of my local Tesco's, I gave her a ring. I said, Michelle, how are things going down there? She said, get down here now. You're starting this afternoon. So I went back to Tesco's. I didn't drive a van this time. It was the click and collect bit, where they pull up in the cars and you load the things in there. In fact, it was so easy, we weren't allowed to touch it. There's your groceries, madam. I'll stand over with my mask on, help yourself. And then, so I did that for 2 years. And then, guess what? Oh no, I'll get to Chewton Glen in a minute. I got a phone call about driving a boat up and down the Lymington River doing the tourist bit. So it's a thing called puffing cruises, and basically the punters get on the boat, you take them down the Lymington River, tell them about all the history of Lymington from the boat, and it was great. The interesting bit of this is I've got all the tickets, all the qualifications that you need to do that. But New Forest District Council say you've got to get a thing called a boatman's licence as well. And it's a money-making scam. Basically, you pay 100 quid. You've got to do loads of different medicals. And then you get interviewed by this guy. So I'm driving this little thing. We're supposed to be driving this little 20-foot thing up and down the river. And one of the questions he asked me, he sat me down. He said, have you ever driven a powered vessel in the Solent? I said, well, I've driven an aircraft carrier past the Needles. He said, oh, okay. He said, yeah, I'll tick that one off then.
But you used to dress up with power. I was a customer cruise as well.
Yeah. We had a very good day out.
Paying customer
Dressed as a puppet.
Yeah, we did. We dressed up and it was very exciting.
And then, guess what? I retired again. And then here we go. There should be a bit of sound. There's a bit of sound. So I was sailing. Dave taught me how to sail. Dave took me sailing, and I did some work for a Forces sailing charity. And this was in Falmouth, a nice windy day. And what was going through my mind then was, there's got to be something better than this. And I thought, what do I want to do? I wouldn't mind cooking. I wonder if I could get a job cooking. That same evening, we pulled into Falmouth, and I pulled my phone out, and I went on one of these Indeed websites, and I thought, I wonder if there's any jobs for cooking around where I live, because I've always liked to cook. And there were 2 for old folks' homes and 1 for this place, Chewton Glen. So I applied for all 3. I didn't get an interview for the 2 old folks' homes. This one, a woman called me from HR and gave me a telephone interview to make sure I wasn't a complete psycho. If she'd have seen these slides, you know, I don't know. And then she said, tell me about your food journey. I said, well, I've got no qualifications whatsoever. I like cooking. I did my first Sunday lunch when I was 9. I said, I'm interested in it. I've done various courses. I've done a shellfish course at Tonk Marie in Woking. I've been to Raymond Blanc's place and I've done this, that and the other. But I said, the real thing is I'm just passionate about it. And she said, okay, I might call you back. She rang me back 2 days later. She said, the head chef wants to see you. I crapped myself. So this is Chewton Glen here. And this is just a taste of it. Top left over there, tree houses, 1,400 quid a night is the cheap one. That's the spa bottom left-hand corner. James Martin started off as a pastry chef there at Chewton Glen. This is one of the rooms, and this is sort of set up outside. And it really is a 5-star. In fact, I think the next slide will tell us. 5-star, privately owned, luxury country house, wins awards all the time. And a member of a worldwide group, the Relais and Chateau group. 72 individual designed bedrooms. None of the bedrooms are the same. Everything's individually designed. It's got a golf course, it's got a leisure complex, it's got a croquet lawn, and the stars go there. If anyone appears at the BIC down in Bournemouth, any of the stars, they stay here at Chewton Glen. So we've had Take That there and Michael McIntyre and all that. Anyway, if they appear down there, they stay here. Chris Evans, he's a regular there, and he's got his own room and brings his own wine. Yeah, and again, an example of just the rooms. So this is the thing I was trying to sign up for, to be a chef at this place. And this just gives you an idea of the 5-star luxury of the place. So that little mini moke you saw, they serve the tree houses. You get one of those and you're chauffeured backwards and forwards to the hotel, to your little tree house here out in the woods. And this is one of the tree houses. Believe it or not, some people book one of these places, 1,400 quid a night, and they will arrive at probably 8 o'clock in the evening. They'll have a couple of bottles of champagne. They're gone by 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's unbelievable. When I did my induction there, the managing director, a guy called Clive, he sat us down and said, these are the kind of people we get. And he talked about the millionaires and some of the billionaires. There's someone that flies in from Jersey every week to have lunch and flies back again, lands their helicopter in the grounds. He said that person gets treated exactly the same as the granny who lives a mile down the road, who's always known about this place and has put £1 in the jar every week and wants to stay here. He said they're treated absolutely no differently, and it's a really great ethos.
Mark, I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens between 8 o'clock in the evening and 4 o'clock the next morning in this treehouse?
Oh, they just go to sleep.
Yeah. As boring as that?
Yeah. A couple of bottles of champagne, go to sleep.
Okay.
It's on expenses and that. Yeah. But they've got every luxury.
It might be more exciting than that.
No, you think, wouldn't you? Okay. For that money. But and the other thing they do there, one of the things they do, we're told you're on the lookout all the time. So if there's lots of lovely gardens there, and if you see someone examining a flower, you go up and ask their room number or ask them who they are. And when they, without being too intrusive, and when they tell you, you then go to reception, who then contact the gardeners. When they check out, they will have that cutting in there for their checkout. Clever little touches like that, So they take an interest in every single person. So these were my bosses. So when I went for my interview, this is Chef Luke.
Wood.
Sorry?
Ian Wood.
Yeah. So Chef Luke, when I went for my interview, he said, here's the kitchen. And my knees were going like this. I was sort of dressed like this, a professional kitchen. It was during service in the evening. It was manic in there. 2 sous chefs running the kitchen, going backwards and forwards. He said, how are you? How you doing? I said, yeah, I'm all right, thanks. He said, okay, so the fridge is over there. So this fridge, cook me a meal. So I thought, what can I do? I thought, okay, well, if you can cook fish, you can get it really wrong. And there are more talented chefs in this room than me right now, Craig being one of them. And I thought you cook a bit of fish, if you can get the fish right, then you're halfway there. You can do a tarty salad with a bit of pomegranate stuff, and that'll be all right. Anyway, did him this thing, then he looked at it and said, yeah, I'll give you a go. Didn't eat it, didn't taste it, just as well. And he said, I'll give you a go. And this is Luke Matthews, that's his thing. He will give people a go. So he took a chance with me. And so he's been there 30 years. He started at the same time as James Martin. James Martin was a pastry chef. Before he got to Chewton Glen, this guy, he started in a little Italian restaurant in Christchurch called Pinocchio's. And he was a dishwasher. Again, no qualifications whatsoever. And he was telling me some stories, and he said one of the guys here, one of the chefs here, he said he was massive, he was huge. And all chefs, they all carry a rag over their apron, or 2 rags, getting things out of the oven. So this chef at Pinocchio's, he said he used to take this thing out, he used to wipe the sweat off his neck and wipe the sweat off his head, do his armpits, and then wipe out a pizza pan. Don't eat at Pinocchio. I think he's got it. And he says some great stories about how health and safety's changed. And fantastic guy. And then his number 2. So he's the executive head chef. The head chef, Simon Addison, fantastic guy. He used to call me a dark horse because I used to be able to drop in these things. I used to go in the kitchen now and again. And I said, "Oh, chef, you're doing Roscoff onions?" He said, "What do you know about Roscoff onions?" He said, "You're a dark horse, aren't you?" And I'd seen it on MasterChef the night before. And so the guys are fantastic. They're supportive, as were all the staff there. So bearing in mind, these guys, it's their career, and they've got a reputation to build. So I had a steep learning curve. So I had to learn about the chef hierarchy, all the allergens. I had to learn knife skills pretty quickly, all about food hygiene, sauces, and then worked out where I fit in with this crowd as well. Bearing in mind, I was lower than the dishwasher, really. I'd been there, when I started, he gave me a black polo shirt and a pair of black trousers. And he said, "There's an apron over there." And I wore this apron. After I'd been there a month, he said, "It's actually, you're not as bad as I thought." And he gave me the chef's whites. And I was on cloud 9. I was like, this is fantastic. And I thought, well, I might be a proper chef now. And then the chef reminded me I wasn't. And so here's the chef hierarchy where before we get to that, knife skills. A chef can give a kilogram of carrots to John, give a kilogram of carrots to Dave, give a kilogram of carrots to Jerry, and he'll say, "I want those carrots," he said, "I want a kilogram of carrots, and I want them brunoise." And when they all come back from 3 different people, they should all be exactly the same. And so this is one of the things you've got to learn with the knife skills. I'll show you. So basically, these are the different ways you chop. And a baton is a 4 centimetre stem of whatever it is, 12 millimetres by 12 millimetres, a batonette 6 millimetres by 6, an allumette, which is French, a matchstick, and then a julienne 1 to 2. And what you do, you start with the baton, the batonette, the allumette, and then you chop them this way. You either end up with large dice, medium dice, small dice, or brunoise. So it's one of the things you have to learn. So basically, you give 6 people a kilogram of carrots and they're saying, "I want them all small dice," they should come exactly the same. Before this, what I thought is small dice, I was like, that would be fine, but they're all going to be exactly the same. Yes, so that's just knife skills. Then the hierarchy. So executive head chef was Luke Matthews at the top. Head chef was Simon. 2 sous chefs there. A French guy called Jérôme Chenet, who was trying to get sailing with us, because I thought we'd eat really well if we took a French sous chef with us. And then a guy called Miro, who was from the Czech Republic. These guys run the kitchen. So the head chef, he does the menus throughout the year, controls the budget, the hiring and firing, is in the kitchen a lot of the time, because when the chefs do their bit, they come up to the pass, which is the bit where it goes to the customer. The head chef examines it and he arranges it all on the plate, and then it goes out. So the chefs don't serve up a meal, they do their little bit and it gets arranged and goes out through the pass. But the sous chefs tend to run the kitchen.
So the head chef does the plating up, did you say?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It can sometimes delegate to one of the sous chefs.
Right.
But so let's say it was a Thai curry. But the Thai curry is Thai lobster curry is one of the favourites there. The guy would do his Thai lobster curry and bring it up. Then someone else will have done the rice, and someone else will have done the garnish and everything else. And the head chef will arrange it. So it doesn't go out till he's happy with it. Yeah. So you can imagine the pressure you're under. Oh. And if you're behind, you've seen it on TV, haven't you? How long on the French fry, chef? 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a standard answer, by the way. If it's only half an hour, you still say 5 minutes. Yeah. And he always comes up with, "I want a real answer, not an approximation." But it's not as mad as you see it on the TV, but it can get heated, especially around Christmas time. So Christmas is really busy. Then all you need then is a wedding thrown in for 250 people on top of the normal service. It's the same brigade of chefs that do it all, and suddenly the whole thing goes mad. And then below those, chef de partie. So these are really the different sections. Someone might be on roast, someone will be on veg, someone will be on fish, then pastry chefs and everything else. And below those, the guys who are aspiring to be a chef de partie and working up to sous chef. And then below those, the commis chefs who will do anything that they're told to do. And below those, the kitchen porter who runs these guys here, the plate wash and the pot wash, two separate places. And then I was down here somewhere. Just doing as I was told. And then the massive thing when I first got there, I had to do lots of courses on allergens and food safety and knife safety and everything else. And allergens is the 14 main allergens that you have to learn. They're not just paranoid about poisoning people. What they're paranoid about is a profit-making business. One person complains, let's say they pay 1,400 quid a night on that room, and then we've got something wrong. We've included mustard when they've got a mustard allergy or something like that. They're no longer paying that 1,400 quid. And one of the things that the hotel was really, really good at is doing refunds. They offer them, 50%, but if they kick off, they'll give them a free stay because they just can't afford bad publicity. So you've got to be really, really careful. Again, not just poisoning them, but anything that could go wrong. It's going to lead to a deduction in what they're going to pay. And interestingly, a little stat here. 30% of people in the UK say they've got allergens. I think some of us in the room got a friend who's allergic to every wine except French. And stop giggling. And in reality, 6% of them show up in clinical trials. And there's a study being here. Every day in the kitchen, we have a list of all the guests coming into the restaurant, and on their list, their allergens. It could be anything from, I won't have duck down pillows. I am lactose intolerant, but I can drink semi-skimmed milk. Lots and lots of different things. And I would say 50% of the people that stay there have an allergy to something. Make sure the room is cleaned 3 times because I've got a dust allergy. And if they find a speck of dust, they're not paying. Yeah. And then sauces. I had to learn sauces pretty quickly as well. So 5 different sauces. We had one more to that. We had a hollandaise to that as well. Also a mayonnaise. So basically these are what they call the mother sauces in France. And then every other sauce comes out of these 5 plus the mayonnaise as well. And then what happened after that? Oh, living the dream. Yeah. So I got my chef's whites. This is my last day actually in the kitchen there. That's the head chef Simon at the back there. And that's me just, I like steam from my Navy days. So just inhaling steam every day. It was, I really enjoyed my time there. But again, what made me retire? Well, Sue and I were updating our will. And we sat down on one side of this table when we went to see the solicitor. Sue sat here, I sat here, and the solicitor sat there. He said, "How old are you, Mr. Stevenson?" I said, 71. He went like that. And it instantly looked at me. I thought, I've only got 10% of my life left. Sobering thought, didn't it? Yeah. I thought, do I really want to be working every Sunday and doing this? I was only part-time. I wasn't doing that many hours. And I thought, I've got to do other things. I've got to take time to do other things rather than working. And as much as I loved it, and I don't want to say it, but I probably had done the job for nothing as well. But I thought I'd better retire again.
Okay.
Sorry? Question? No? Anyway, but so the risks can be worth it. I don't think a month went past when I didn't get given a bottle of champagne for whatever reason. I had my 70th birthday while I was there. Oh, you get a bottle of champagne for that, mate. Oh, thank you very much. And good stuff as well. Long Perrier, 45 quid a bottle in Waitrose. And 75 quid if you eat it in the restaurant, if you drink it in the restaurant. And then they have an awards thing once a year as well. Oh no, this thing here. If someone mentions you or mentions you by name and say you did exceptional service, they give you one of these little golden ducks. And when you get 3 golden ducks, they go back to HR, they get traded in, and you get a little gold brooch. It's a bit like the Boy Scouts, really, but it's a nice thing to get. So I got 3 ducks within a month, and then got my little gold brooch. And then at the end of last year, they did these awards thing here, and I was nominated for the behind the scenes thing at Chewton Glen, and strange enough, I won it. Another bottle of champagne, and so now retirement again. And what am I going to do? So this is attempt number 5. Well, I'm playing a bit of golf now. I managed to win a tournament the other week. I hit a stone and it went on the green or something like that. And then sailing. Last year, myself, and 4 South Africans went to Greece. Why do I do it?
Teach how to do it right.
Why do I do it? Apparently I wasn't allowed to touch the barbecue. We went to Greece. This year, myself and 5 South Africans are going to go to Croatia. I must be a glutton for punishment. So I'm going to do a bit more sailing. There's a charity called SAFA, which is an armed forces charity. I volunteer as a caseworker for that, and what that is if someone's been in the armed forces or still serving and they hit hard times for whatever reason, normally financial, I'll go and visit them and I'll look at what the circumstances are, and then I'll see where we can get some money to help them if they're a deserving case. I'll write a report, and you may have heard of Help for Heroes, you've heard of the British Legion. There are 1,300 armed services charities out there. So what I do is do a case that gets flagged off or sent off, and then these people bid and say, oh, I'll chip in a £5, I'll chip in 200 quid. We're trying to help people who are struggling. The qualification to get money out of the SAFA, 1 day service, that's all you have to do. You don't have to do basic training. You do 1 day and then you're eligible for help. And I volunteer playing golf as well. So this was at the Ryder Cup in Rome. I now measure golf courses as well. It's a weird thing to do, isn't it? So it's a volunteer job for Hampshire Golf. We pitch up every golf course in Hampshire has to be measured once a year, and we pitch up with lasers and just measure the distances and how far it is to the bunkers, and it changes the course rating and things like that. And yeah, so it's another thing that I'll volunteer doing. So at the moment, my time is taken up with volunteering. What's next? I've got no idea, but God does. Well, here's the funny thing as well. When I left Chewton Glen, head chef sat me down. By the way, I called him Luke here. I never ever called him Luke to his face. It was always chef. In fact, all of the chefs, it was only ever chef. And part of that was because I could never remember the names. But it's just easy to call them. If they're wearing white, call them chef, it's easy. And they knew my name. So yeah, when I left there, the head chef sat me down. He said, why are you going? I said, I've got to retire now. I've got things to do. And really, really nice thing he said to me. He said, if you want to come back, he said, if you want to go back to work, you call me first. So I might go back at Christmas. They get really, really busy at Christmas. So I might go back at Christmas and help out then. And then the general manager there, Clive, he caught me. He said, what's this you're leaving? I said, yeah, I'm going. He said, if you want any work, give me a ring. He said, I need a porter. I said, if I'm coming back, I'm not going to be able to porter. Which reminds me, sorry, I'm going to digress a bit about people wanting your services. My last ship in the Royal Navy took me down to the Antarctic, HMS Polar Circle. And we were on the way back from the Antarctic, and I was due to leave the Navy when we came back. That was it. And my captain came down to my workshop where I was. And he said, Chief, he said, you're leaving when we go back, aren't you? I said, yeah, I am, sir, yeah. And he said, why don't you do one more trip with us? I said, no. He said, enough's enough. He said, one more trip down the ice, Chief. He said, you know you've enjoyed it, haven't you? I said, I have enjoyed it, sir. I said, but you know, I've got to go. I said, anyway, he said, the Royal Navy is full of good engineers. You can pick any one of them. He said, engineers? Engineers? I said, I want a guitarist. We had a band on board, and our claim to fame is we were the first blues band to play a gig in the Antarctic. It was outside, it was a barbecue, minus 35, and yeah, we still joke now about they went to light the barbecue, the flame froze on the lighter. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know what I'm doing next, but like I say, God does. So this is me cooking at home now. Sue gets the benefit. The nice bit of ribeye over here, and a tarty salad with a parmesan crisp, and I think that was figs, poached figs with feta, sitting on something or other with yeah. So Sue gets the benefit of my my tune.
Did you ever write the menus then?
Sorry?
Feta sitting on the bed of something.
Yeah.
Write the menu.
Yeah. Well, Sue does this thing like the 3-thing challenge. You know, there's 3 things out there. She did it once.
On a bed of toast.
She did it once, and she put a can of beer out there. I drank the can of beer for inspiration and just made something with the other 2. And I think that might be it. Yeah.